When the Bulls lost to the Boston Celtics in the final in-season tournament game of group play, you guys remember the Bulls losing in embarrassing fashion with the Celtics running up the score for point differential purposes to secure a spot in the knockout round for them. The Celtics started implementing the hack of Drummond in the fourth quarter while they were up 25 plus points. It was an embarrassing loss, a pathetic effort from a team that looked like they were all but checked out on the season and knew that it was only a matter of time before the front office blew up the roster. The Bulls, at that night, fell 5-14 in the standings, hitting rock bottom, and with a schedule that featured some of the best teams in the league in their next 10 games, a lot of us were talking about how it was very possible the Bulls would win one or maybe two of those games, if not losing all of them, and the first chance of victory would be against the San Antonio Spurs on December 21st. Well, here we are on December 21st after a tough stretch of games, and the Bulls not only beat the Spurs, the only thought to be a winnable game over the next 11 games, but they somehow go 8-3 from that point on after losing that game against the Boston Celtics, despite not having Zach Lavine. DeMar missed a game as well in that time period. Caruso has missed time, and yes, the Bulls were fortunate enough to get two added games after the in-season group play with the Spurs and the Hornets. That helped in securing more wins, but beating teams like the Bucks, Heat, Sixers, Lakers, those aren't easy feats. And the Bulls throughout this time period have remained steadfast and focused and keeping up their level of play that has gotten them to where they are now. Now, this game in particular against the Spurs, yeah, it wasn't pretty. In fact, the Bulls played pretty poorly through the first three quarters against one of the worst teams in the league who have only won 4 games all season. The Bulls came out pretty low in terms of energy, almost as if they thought they have this game in the bag, a young, bad Spurs team that they will easily be able to get a win. And yeah, the Bulls played last night, which maybe explains a bit of the slow start, but thankfully the Spurs are just that bad that it didn't really impact the Bulls all that much with their incredibly poor shooting. Miscues on offense, turning the ball over, sloppy possessions, getting beat off the dribble to the basket on defense. I mean, going into the fourth quarter, I kept saying, well, at some point, these shots have to start falling down, right? Bulls were 2 for 20 at one point shooting from three-point range going into the fourth quarter, and luckily the guys finally came to life in the fourth and eventually blew it open to take a commanding lead in the final 5 or so minutes. But letting a team like the Spurs stay that connected through most of this game is pretty bad. That said though, one of the things I've liked seeing throughout this resurgence, if you want to call it that, over the last 11 games is that the Bulls, through the ups and downs of a given game, have responded well through every run from an opposing team. The usual Bulls would just get down on themselves, revert back to their old ways where the ball sticks. They start going into hero ball mode, forcing bad shots, and then it becomes this vicious cycle that even when they do have a couple of good games here and there, they get into their heads and go back down to where they were before. Like even in a game like tonight, a game they know they're supposed to win, a game that would otherwise be a horrible loss if they were to blow it, a trap game for all intents and purposes, they never panicked, never got flustered, and even when the Spurs would bring the game within a couple of points, they knew what they needed to do in responding to the run, keeping their focus, and getting their heads back into the game and making smart plays. But anyway, I think what stood out to me most from this game was how well the Bulls did in guarding Victor Wembanyama. His first game in Chicago, only 7 points, 3 for 8 from the floor, just 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Don't get me wrong, dude is still going to be a stud and he'll be one of the best players in the NBA in 5+ years. But the Bulls keeping Wemby at bay was key in winning this game. Oh, and by the way, I got incredibly lucky on my underdog fantasy picks tonight. I got a little too aggressive putting $50 on these picks, and sure enough, I hit on all of them. I'll be honest, the reason I had DeMar, Vuce, and Coby lower on all their respective stats is because I thought this game was going to be a blowout and they wouldn't be playing the whole game. And then Patrick Williams, I was like, yeah, he can score at least 13 based on what we've been seeing from him. And it paid off. 20x my money and walked away with $1,000. I'm telling you guys, sign up for Underdog Fantasy, so easy to use. And if you know basketball well, you'll see some good returns. Use my code in the description or the pinned comment. They'll double your first deposit, by the way. But anyway, Wemby, not a good game for him. For the Bulls, I mean, I know it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse here, but I really cannot emphasize enough the importance of the growth and maturation we've seen from Patrick Williams and Coby White over these last 11 games. Pat, another aggressive, efficient game, 18 points, 7 for 11 shooting, 2 for 4 from 3, 4 rebounds. Coby, 22.6 rebounds, 5 assists, 10 for 15 from the floor. I mean, Coby's shooting is actually getting absurd because it's not like he's just shooting the ball at a high clip. Some of his shots and how he's generating offense are insanely difficult to hit. And it speaks volumes to his ability in terms of his handles, his general navigation on the court, navigating through screens, splitting defenders. Like, it's more than just him shooting threes at a high level. He's becoming an effective scorer at all levels, which has paid dividends for the Bulls in this run that we're currently seeing. And then DeMar DeRozan doing his thing, another solid game for him, 21 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, shot 9 for 15. Vooch, dude has kind of had it rough recently, just some weird possessions, bad turnovers, can't hit a 3, was 0 for 7 from deep tonight. Some of those wide open looks, by the way. He still managed to finish with 16 points on 8 for 19 shooting, put some nice moves in the paint on Wemby, but also got rejected by him a couple times. And then Alex Caruso didn't take a single 3, which is odd for him considering he's been shooting it so well from deep, but still managed to get to the cup often, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals. And then off the bench, I can't say enough how good both Andre Drummond and Dosunmu have been recently, particularly Ayo just because of his disappointing year that he had last season. And this year, he's just been so much more aggressive and confident on offense, using his speed to get downhill. He's a much better and smarter passer than we've seen most recently. And then Andre Drummond tonight, just playing bully ball on the Spurs, making it impossible to box him out. Drummond getting the steal on his man every time, and then Drummond stepping it up on defense tonight as well. Dude had 5 steals in this game, 5 steals to also go along with 2 blocks. Finished the game with 12 points and 8 rebounds as well. Also was a plus 17 in just 19 minutes of play. I love Andre Drummond, man. Sometimes he makes you pull your hair out, but he hustles, knows his role, accepts his role, and coming off the bench, and has been great for the Bulls in that second unit to give them those hustle points that they need. Bulls shot 54% from the floor tonight, oddly enough, despite only shooting 25% from 3. Decent passing, 24 assists, 11 steals as a team. That's another thing, by the way. The Bulls are actually quickly becoming one of the best teams in the league in steals per game. They helped that average tonight thanks to Andre Drummond and Alex Caruso. So Bulls are off tomorrow before they're back at it at the United Center on Saturday against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Another opportunity against an injured Cavs team that has struggled a bit this season. Another opportunity to make up some ground in the standings too, by the way, because don't look now, but the Bulls are only 3.5 games back of the 6th seed and just 4.5 games back of the 4th spot. Magic have lost 4 in a row, by the way. They're coming back down to earth. Had to throw that one in there. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts on the game. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.